Hey y'all, welcome to Kamira's Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of the most flavorful rice dishes I have ever made. Now I know some of y'all are like, honey, you said it was a rice dish, so why you starting out with the meat? Okay, baby, we're going to use his meat to flavor that rice. Now, I am using oxtails today, but you don't have to use oxtails. You can use any other cut of beef with bone or even just cubed beef that you want, some kind of fatty. You could also do this with chicken and make it work as well. I like to start off cleaning my oxtail with a little bit of white vinegar and cool water and just, rubbing it together and tossing it a few times. I know some people say you shouldn't wash your meat. Okay, baby, if you don't want to wash your meat, don't do it. But I find that oxtail tends to be a little bit grimy and baby, I just cannot. Okay, I have to go in and rinse mine a little bit. I'm then going to add some paper towels at the bottom to absorb any excess moisture. And then look, if you wash your meat in your sink, baby, you got to hit it up with some bubbles. Okay, so I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to use some Dawn and I'm just going to hit that sink up. It's just like a big old bowl. Okay, this is how you prevent the spread of germs. Honey has been working for me. Dawn been cleaning them ducks. Is clean this sink. Okay, so my meat is nice and dry and I'm going to start to cut off a little bit of the fat. I don't really concern myself with getting off all the fat on some oxtails because honestly it's going to render off during the cooking time, but I just like to get a little bit of it off because at some point it just becomes a lot. Okay, I'm going to use a simple but very flavorful combination of spices. I'm using this Maggie seasoning, which is like soy sauce, but it has a slightly different flavor. I'm also going to put in some browning and this oxtail seasoning. This is the first time I had tried this particular brand and it got a little kick to it. I really like it, so I picked this one up from the Hispanic store. Now this other oxtail seasoning is different. It's a bit more heavier on salt and it has a different flavor. I really enjoy this one as well and I'm on my second bottle of that one, so you know it's good. I'm also going to add a little bit of curry powder and then I'm going to mix as well until my oxtail is coated. On a medium heat, I've had my cast iron skillet heating and into that I'm going to add just a touch of olive oil. Then I am going to start to brown the oxtails on each side until they get a little bit of color. You cannot skip this. You really need this to enhance the flavor because it starts to toast those spices. If you're using, say, chunks of chuck roast or something like that, you also want to brown that as well. Okay, so any meat you use, you got to get that color on it. In total, this should take about 5 to 6 minutes. Then I'm going to remove the oxtail and I'm going to put it in my Instant Pot. The pressure cooker is really the best way to handle any long cooking piece of meat. Right into this skillet, I'm going to put some diced onions and some red wine just to get up those spices that are on the bottom of your cast iron. I don't want that fond to burn, so I'm also going to turn the heat down to about a 2. Then I'm going to add in a few tablespoons of green seasoning and some garlic. This green seasoning is a combination of spring onion, garlic, cilantro, scotch bonnet, just some fresh herbs. I will leave a link in the description box to how I make this, or you can just cut up all those herbs and onions fresh. I'm going to saute this for about 2 minutes until it starts to brown, and then I'm going to add it into the Instant Pot with my oxtail. I'm also going to put in a little bit of cinnamon, some allspice, and a bay leaf. I rinsed out my marination bowl with some water, only about 2 cups of water or so. I don't want too much gravy, even though I definitely want some, because I'm only going to be cooking about 1.5 cups of rice. If you want to make more rice, then you definitely can add extra water so you can have more gravy. I'm going to pressure cook this for 38 minutes and then allow it to natural pressure release for about 40 minutes. If you're using bigger chunks of maybe chuck roast or something like that, then you could probably pressure cook yours for about 30 minutes. You don't necessarily want the meat to disintegrate. Just pressure cook it long enough for it to be cooked and tender, but not quite falling apart if you're using boneless beef. I'm then going to skim off the fat, take out the oxtails, and add in about 2 tablespoons of ketchup. And I'll mix that in until I just adjust the flavors with salt, pepper, everything like that until it gets to be what I want. But you definitely got to skim off that fat because, honey, that fat will get ridiculous. Okay, with some oxtails. Now, I am taking some of the fat and I'm going to repurpose it to toast some more vegetables. So I added some onions, some garlic, some carrot. Those are pieces of kabocha squash, but you could use any sort of pumpkin you can get your hand on. And I am going to just toast this for a bit, and then I'll add a little bit of water. I'm going to cover this and I'm going to simmer this on low until that pumpkin softens up. Just check it from time to time to make sure the pan doesn't go completely dry and the vegetables burn. Honey, you have got to season every step of the way. So I'm going to add a little salt, a little pepper, and a little bit of complete seasoning to my vegetables. And then I'm going to put in 1.5 cups of basmati rice. I have washed this rice really well because I like my rice to just be nice and fluffy. Okay, and then I'm going to mix the rice until it kind of toasts a little bit in that oxtail fat. That's only going to take about 2 minutes or so. Then I'm going to put in 2 cups of the oxtail gravy. This is where the flavor is really coming from. This rich, delicious gravy is really going to flavor this rice immensely. And go ahead and just add in the onion bits and all of that from the gravy too. Then I am going to put in 1 cup of full fat coconut milk. Honey, I know some of y'all do that little diet stuff, but that light coconut milk is not going to work for this recipe. Do you hear me? Honey, you got to have the flavor because the fat equals flavor. So you need that full fat coconut milk and a little bit of that oxtail grease. I'm also going to season this up a little bit more. Remember, your rice is bland. So if this broth isn't tasting flavorful and rich and delicious, it's not going to come through in the dish. So I'm adding more complete seasoning, a little bit more pepper, as well as a habanero. I'm going to cover this with some parchment paper and cook this on the lowest heat setting for 20 minutes. You could actually cook the oxtails with the rice in this again. I don't prefer to do that because I don't like any of the oxtail meat to start to shred into the rice. I just add it back afterwards. I'm going to start off fluffing the rice with some chopsticks so that it can be nice and fluffy. And then I'm going to turn it with my spatula. Now, I know y'all see that little burnt rice on the under part. Baby, that's unavoidable. And for some people, that's y'all favorite part because all the spices get nice and toasted down there. Let me know in the comments if you eating that under rice because sometimes it be hidden. I have my heat off and I'm just going to let this oxtail warm up again in the heat of the rice for about 2 minutes. You know that cast iron skillet really retains that heat. You just want everything nice and warm. Served with some vegetables and some coleslaw. This dish is just delicious and bursting with flavor. It's a complete meal and I know your family is going to love it. Let me know if you try it in the comments. I'll see you next time in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye and God bless.